Welcome to the 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts podcast.
Wherever you find American troops today, you'll find the men of the Transportation Corps. Enough and on time. That's the story we tell you today. The story of the Army Quartermaster Corps.
These youthful servicemen are members of the Army's Military Police Corps.
One of the most important forces behind the lines, the Army Ordnance Corps.
Hello and welcome to the Every Soldier Counts podcast, where we talk to the people that help the 19th ESC deliver the logistic support that keeps 8th Army moving. Because 19th ESC, Every Soldier Counts, is in the name. I'm your host, Captain Debraj Mukherjee, also known as Raj. As a part of our Hispanic Heritage celebration, we are talking today with soon-to-be retired Lieutenant Colonel Yolanda Nieto, G1 OIC. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing very, very well. It's a magnificent Monday today.
I know. Every day we get to serve, right? Is it another
Absolutely.
Wonderful day? So for those of us who don't know what the G1 is, do you mind giving us a little description or just telling us about what the G1 does?
Absolutely. So G1 does everything human resources and everything that encompasses, like from accounting for personnel, the daily personnel statistical report, like who's available for duty today, whether they're present for duty in the hospital or TDY, leave. So that's the strength management side of the house. So that's what we cover on the personnel accountability strength management side. And then the essential personnel services covers down on awards and actions. So like all the soldiers that receive an award, we process all those awards to include the CATUSA awards.
Oh, wow.
And soon to be the civilian awards. So that will be coming. But also to all the actions. So if you want to curtail, your assignment or extend your assignment, whether it's a foreign service tour extension, we do all those actions. So, and that's the essential personnel services side of the house. And then, of course, I have a plans and ops section that does all the planning and operations, all the op orders, the daily battle rhythm for G1, but also too encompassing what the command as a whole does, and then making sure that we meet the taskers and mission that are given by the G3 and the CG for whatever that tasking is.
So when we talk about people, like the people aspect of 19th ESC, you guys are the main action officers for making sure that people get taken care of in this unit.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's a huge responsibility.
It is. So currently we account for close to over 6,000 people within 19th ESC. So I've got a great staff that helps me do that. And
oh yeah,
and
I can barely account for myself. So that's
yeah. So we help all the primary staff to be able to do that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we just celebrated your impending retirement, 37 years.
Correct.
So 1985 is when you commissioned?
That is correct. So I was active duty for 4 years, and then I came out and went into the reserves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't stay very long because I got called up on for Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
The Gulf War, like capital G.
That's right. So participated in that. That was my first.
And so what was were you AG to begin with, or?
No. So I actually started out as. I got my degree in biology, and then I got branched chemical.
Oh, wow.
Chemical Corps, because all the biology and chemistry majors at that time were being branched chemical.
So when we talk about like going to the Gulf War as you were chemical platoon?
That's correct. Decon.
Oh, wow.
Decon chemical platoon leader.
Yeah, and so when we think about the first Gulf War, that was kind of the main worry, right? When we
absolutely
with Iraq and Saddam Hussein and his weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons. So that's a very. So what was your posture when you were over there in the?
So we lived in MOP just about every day, except for when we were moving. But even then, you really learned your craft and how to be the best, chemical officer that you could be. You learned how to breathe and sleep in that mask because you were moving in and out of it. So, a shed, you sweat a lot, so drink a lot of water. For some folks, they lost a lot of weight. But
yeah, absolutely. Mop gear in the desert that's a great weight loss plan, or not a good weight loss plan, but it'll definitely burn some calories.
Absolutely.
So after Desert Shield, you went active duty, or?
No. So I was still in the reserves.
Okay.
So I was part of the 90th ARCOM, which at that time was headquartered out of San Antonio, Texas, and so I was a trainer for the
cool.
90th ARCOM, and we went around training the reserve units, various different aspects, inspections, because it was a 2-star command at the time, so it was a lot of TDY, but very fulfilling. Got to travel Arkansas, most of Texas, Georgia. So, yeah, it was like being on active duty.
Absolutely.
But we did a lot of TDY to be able to train the reserve components.
Absolutely. And so what made you want to do the transition from reserve to active duty?
So that's a great question. So I was in the reserves, and after 9/11, they were mobilizing reserve units like consistently, every 9 to 12 months. And so I was part of that mobilization, and it just seemed like I was always being mobilized. And I actually ended up working for 5th Army once I came back off of that OIF rotation. I went to work
Were you part of the initial invasion?
For OIF, no.
Okay.
But I was for Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Gotcha. So I was going to say, like, kind of going back to your old stomping grounds almost. Did you? I know a lot of folks when I deployed who'd been a part of Desert Shield, Desert Storm. They would just like, oh, that's Nasiriyah. Oh, that's over there. Did it feel like not to say that you were coming home, but it came like you were coming back to familiar territory?
Absolutely. So, but this time in an AG role when I went back in OIF.
So not in MOP all the time.
Correct.
Right.
So it was 180 degrees different, but it was a great opportunity for me to learn a different branch, and so that's basically what I did, and that's how I became a subject matter expert in AG.
Absolutely. So what made you want to transition from chemical to AG? Was it like your first choice, or I know sometimes we get it's not always the job we choose, but the job the Army chooses for us.
And that's pretty much what happened. So I was in the Reserve Command, and they were mobilizing all these units. And Colonel Brenda Smith, I had worked with her a little bit, and she actually asked me if I wanted to mobilize. And of course I said, well, I'm not AG. And she said, knowing your work ethic and knowing who you are, you will not have a problem. Know, you're going to go to the MOB station, qualify with us, and you're going to MOB. And I said, yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
and so that's how I became an AG officer. So
did you have a lot of senior female leaders at that time, or?
Actually, outside of Colonel Brenda Smith, no. The Chemical Corps predominantly was male. I had a few soldiers that were female that would come and go, but not as far as, senior leadership. My company commanders were male, and the battalion commander and the brigade commander were all male. So it wasn't until OIF, when Colonel Brenda Smith was when I've had the first female senior raider.
Oh, wow. So between, that's interesting, because between, Desert Shield, when you went for the Gulf, and when you went to OIF, there was a lot of differences, aside from just, what you were wearing.
Correct.
The people you were deploying with were totally different.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, chemical to AG. So, two different fields entirely, just kind of learning the climate and the structure, and it's a different skill set altogether, because I mean certainly in the Chemical Corps you're servicing and doing decon operations, nuclear operations, etc. Whereas on the AG side of the house you're actually helping and servicing soldiers and helping them be able to get to where they need to be, professionally and personally. So different skill sets. So
still helping though. Still providing support, still helping soldiers, still taking care of soldiers, really.
Absolutely.
So since you had such a massive demographic change and a massive change in scope from your 2 deployments, what would you say, like in retrospect, were challenges that you dealt with while you were in Desert Storm, Desert Shield that were maybe different when you were in OIF?
I don't know that they were really challenges other than just opportunities in learning, because during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, it was an actual mobilization and deployment on the reserve side of the house,
Right.
versus OIF. Oh, actually, well, now that I say that, OIF 2 was, I got mobilized with another reserve unit out of New Orleans, Louisiana, and but they were different levels. One was a company, and the other one was an 06 command. So,
wow.
yeah, complete different. And also, too, starting out as a lieutenant and then being a major, that a lot of growth had occurred between that time.
Absolutely. People take you more seriously as a major than that.
Correctly than as a lieutenant. But just going over there and being deployed and serving, whether it was Desert Shield, Desert Storm, or OIF, 1, 2, and 3, it was all great experiences that me as an individual was able to participate in. And now that I think about it, just in, with family members, yeah, I did have cousins that went into military service.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, for my first cousins, I was probably the only one who came back with 2 combat patches. And a female at that.
Yeah, some bragging rights at Christmas at home, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before the interview, and it sounds your family has moved to Texas pretty in the early 1900s.
Yes, during the Mexican Revolution, 1910 to 1920. So because of the bandit war that was going on in Mexico, where you had the government and then you had the bandits kind of really that were raiding and taking from, the local populace. You had Pancho Villa in the north and Emiliano Zapata in the south. So during that time, our family, which is from Zacatecas, decided to come to Texas.
Absolutely.
So so they came across. And of note, we had Lieutenant Colonel Dolores Nieto, who fought with the Mexican Army, the Federales, during the Revolution, and came across primarily because of the, just because of the Revolution. So that was in 1918. And coming all the way forward to 2022, 2023, 104 years later, you have another Lieutenant Colonel Nieto departing the U.S. Army, for civilian life. So
100, about 100 years and 2 lieutenant colonels, and really sounds like hundreds of years of government and military service in your family as well.
Yes. I had 2 uncles that served their initial terms, and they were my father's younger brothers, and then my father served a stint in the National Guard, Texas National Guard, under the 36th Infantry Division.
Oh, wow.
They're correct. Yeah. So, and then as far as first cousins, I'm number 8 out of 68 first cousins. So I've had probably about 4 or 5 first cousins that entered service and came out. And then, so second cousins, let's see, a couple of second cousins, and then one nephew that's a graduate of USAMA.
Nice. What year?
Yeah, class of 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, class of 2015. So we've got military in our family.
Nice.
It's not like.
Is it an overt tradition in your family, or is it just the direction members of your family happen to go in?
So I wouldn't say that, for the Nieto side, not really.
Okay.
So it just, I know for me, it was different to come in.
Absolutely.
Because in my culture, that's not something that a woman does. Get your degree, get married, start raising a family.
So when you graduated, St. Mary's, you had your degree in biology.
Correct.
What was when you're like, I'm going to the Army? Like, what did your family have to say about that? Were they super supportive, or?
They were actually very supportive.
Oh, cool.
Which is not traditional, but I had my parents' support to go into the Army. Of course, it was all brand new. I'd never been to Anniston, Alabama. Just let alone taking a plane, to go to the East Coast somewhere, and learned to live life on my own, away from family. So
I think that is when we look at how does the Army instill discipline in you and instill responsibility in you. I think that's one of the big things that first of all, it takes you away from everyone you know.
Right, exactly.
And you have to. It's a little bit of a sink or swim. You learn to be responsible, and that's awesome. Especially coming from such a strong support system, and then having to learn to do things on your own.
Absolutely. But it was a lot of fun. Scary, but doable. I mean, I knew that there were other people that had gone before me. So, you're right. It was a sink or swim. You got to make it,
So when you kind of going back to your decision to commission, when did you decide that you wanted to join, and what was it your family's military history? Did you feel like you wanted to honor something, or was it a chance to do something that was completely new?
It was more of something new. Because I really didn't know my family history at that time.
Oh, wow.
I knew we had a lot of relatives, like all over the United States, but I did not realize that there was a lieutenant colonel who fought with the Mexican Army when I was commissioned as a second lieutenant. I think had I known then, I probably would have been a little bit more focused on, a few other aspects in my life. But, something that I learned along the way, and just learning your family history and
Absolutely.
the legacy that that comes forward with all of that, because what they had to endure during the Mexican Revolution doesn't compare to what what I've had to endure.
It puts things in perspective. Right, it really puts things in perspective. Yeah, I don't know if during the Mexican Revolution they probably didn't have to wear mops, so I feel like maybe you have something on them there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So. Big differences. So, in retirement, I'll have a chance to actually dig into the records a little bit more and really kind of see if Lieutenant Colonel Dolores Nieto was always a paymaster. Today it would be the finance corps. So
very similar.
Right.
You'd be working in offices right next to each other.
Exactly. So so I'm looking forward to that time to be able to research a little bit more of the family tree, and if there's anybody out there who's listening to this that knows of a Nieto, please don't hesitate to reach out.
We'll put up a hotline so people can call.
That's right. Very good. That'll work.
So you kind of going back, and so as you reflect on your time, and I was fine for me, like transition is like a time where I really think about, and I don't have nearly as much time as you do. Mm-hmm. So as when I think about what I've done so far and where I'm going, and so when you reflect on your time in the Army, what are some of the biggest changes that I would say that you've seen? So I imagine there's a lot, because in the Army of 1985 and the Army of 2022 are two vastly different organizations, I imagine. Oh,
absolutely. One, just the climate and the culture is different. I mean, you've got a lot more females in the Army now than you had back in 1985. I mean, back in 1985, most colleges and universities were co-ed, to include USMA, because I think they were co-ed probably late 1970s, somewhere around there. But so just the integration of women into the force, and then of course coming all the way to current day. I mean, you've got we had the female engagement teams that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. You see a lot more female general officers. Unlike in the past, you predominantly only saw them in the medical corps, particularly the nurse corps. I know I got a lot of questions asked when I first got commissioned, am I medical? Am I a nurse? And I'm like, no, none of those.
People would just assume that you were...
Right, that I was a nurse. And but never ever served as a nurse. So, and technology is probably the biggest thing. Back in my day when I came in, a lot of manual systems, not only with active duty, but in the reserves as well. Carbon copy, you put a little name card, or you put your card on a plate, and you run it, and then one copy goes to you, one goes to the admin person, so they could get you paid, and so it was just really different. Of course, now everything is automated. Administrative actions are automated as well, sent through email. I was talking to the 8th Army G1 team earlier. We were just talking about old systems, active and reserve, which is SIDPERS, ARDLAS, dimers to IPSA, where we are today. I mean, that release is going to happen here real soon. So just things have really, really transitioned. So I would say technology has been a big change.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that. I'm not real savvy with I'm not even going to talk about it, but I'm not very technologically advanced, but I've got team members that can help.
You could log into Microsoft, and that's,
absolutely.
I think that's the biggest. Once you cross that hurdle, you're good to go.
Right, absolutely. So so I would say just the command climate and the culture.
Talking about the climate, would understand coming up as a Hispanic female in 1985 when you didn't have that many females around you. Did you ever feel like you were dealing with hostility, or did you ever were you able to find mentors? I know in the military, mentorship is so important. So were you able to, even though you were kind of different from these leaders, and I know you didn't mention you had one senior female leader, were you able to find mentors who helped you out, or?
Absolutely, and they were never really all the same, or anyone that looked like me. It was just kind of a full spectrum. Just seeking the advice and what's the next step, and I'm going in the reserves. What do you think, and what's your guidance, and and even within the reserves, I would say the mentors that I had early on were predominantly men until Colonel Brenda Smith, and then
did that affect, I don't want to say like the quality of mentorship, but did you feel that you were getting more precise mentorship, or did you feel like the demographic of your mentor did the demographic of your mentor matter, or was it?
I don't feel like it did.
Okay.
I think it's important for us to be able to work together with one another. It doesn't matter what the demographic is, because if they're a lieutenant colonel or an 06 or a 1-star, they've gone through the ranks, and they're able to pass that knowledge down to you and provide guidance. So
they've walked the path,
exactly.
And so they've gone through the systems, and it doesn't matter where they came from. We're all ultimately trying to go in the same direction.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense. That makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
So when you think about your legacy, talking about the Army has changed quite a bit in 1985 to 2022. What do you feel like your legacy in the Army is going to be, or what do you want people, your soldiers, the people and leaders that you've mentored to remember about you?
Wow, that's a loaded question. So I would say resiliency, endurance, resiliency, because it doesn't matter what rank you are, enlisted officer, you experience a lot of things, particularly in deployments. We lose soldiers. And we have to process that, and then in our personal lives we also lose family members, and I think going through life, the Army does a really great job in providing resiliency classes and behavioral health, just the full spectrum. There's a lot of agencies out there that can provide assistance to you. So but I would say resiliency, endurance, family, creating that family. I think, G1 kind of naturally, builds that family.
I've seen the G1 family. You guys stay way later. You have your meals. You guys decorate your offices. I would say the atmosphere in the G1 is probably. Sometimes I walk past, I'm like, I wonder if they'll let me in and have some cake.
Absolutely. Just knock on the door. We'll let you in. Let you in. Today the special is walnut banana bread.
Oh wow! Yeah, I'll be sure to stop by.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you foster that? So how do you? And I can say, from what I've seen, the family environment in the G1 is you're very tight knit, very solid. People definitely put in more than 100%, and not because they have to,
right?
And so how did you foster that environment?
One, I do a G1 sync with all my leaders every Monday morning. Touch points with all the soldiers. Particularly on Monday mornings. Did everybody have a great weekend? What'd you do this weekend? What'd you do? downtown? Did you take in a new site? Get out of the barracks? Just really kind of
taking
asking.
a genuine interest, yeah.
Right, absolutely, because, the last thing, particularly here for Korea, you don't want your soldiers to stay into the barracks and stay there all weekend just sleeping and watching Netflix.
It can radically change the time you spend here.
Exactly.
If you spend it in the barracks doing, just kind of doing the same thing, or
Right.
actually getting out and trying to see Korea.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I think everybody knows that I love to hike. And so we've done a couple of G1 hikes.
We also did a Mount Hops on Friday.
Right. So, and leading up to that, of course, we did, leaders recon. Of
course.
And, I had probably about 3-4 G1 team leads on that hike. So,
I tried to keep up with Captain Isles on that hike on Friday, and I think I paid for it.
Little sore today.
Yeah, a little sore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's
very fit.
Yeah,
he's very fit,
is,
and he climbs
right.
mountains very fast.
Yes, he does, and I think his background is SFAB, so Special Forces. So
yeah, he knows his way around a mountain.
Exactly. So I would say fun is also another. Hopefully, that's another character that folks see. In the G1 and in me is even though we work hard and we stay late to make sure that we accomplish all the missions. We try to have a lot of fun in doing that because, who wants to come to work and not have fun? To me, that's just drudgery.
Yeah,
it's time to leave the Army if that's what your experience. But yeah, and really because we've got a lot of younger soldiers here that are away from home for the first time, and they miss their family. It's really building that family atmosphere so that they can learn, grow, and develop. Not just professionally but personally as well.
Do you think coming from an extended family background, when we were talking before, it sounds like you have a lot of family in San Antonio. Do you think growing up in that extended family background sort of helped you facilitate this as a leader? Or?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Because I'm one of 5 kids in my immediate family, and then number 8 out of 68 first cousins on the Nieto side of the house.
So you already know how to manage a lot of people or be around a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd like to think I do. Yes.
Yeah, that's excellent. And so, we always talk about on the podcast here when it comes to support systems, Korea can be difficult because you are. Talking about how the Army sort of makes you self-reliant through distance from your support systems. Korea is one of those places where you really don't have as much access to your family as you would like if you're stationed in Kona. So having a leader who genuinely engages and cares and creates that atmosphere that definitely builds resilience.
It does. And really it's taking care of each other. But also to remember to take care of yourself, because you can, burn both ends of the candle and not be able to take care of yourself and then just leave completely burned out.
So what do you do to take care? So you like to hike? What else do you like to do to?
Watch movies on Netflix.
Of course, you have to allow some time. Yeah,
right. Watch TED Talks. And just walk around. New areas within Daegu. Like I was telling some members of my team. Really, it's just getting out and making that first step and driving in an unknown direction, and then just getting out and walking and seeing what's in the area. And you'll find out that there's so much more out there. I mean, there's a lot of history, not just, there's valid history. We've got Hill 303. We've got the Nakdong River Museum here.
Area 4, I agree. Area 4 is really unique when we look at Korean history. Getting stationed here has been an excellent opportunity to really understand the history of the Korean War and what an epic war it was, really. And especially in Area 4, we held the line.
Absolutely.
So being able to walk those areas and see them, Hill 303, and even I think on Friday going past Nakdong Memorial.
Right, absolutely, yeah, and just kind of envisioning like, wow, would I have been able to make it? Yeah,
I can tell you coming up that mountain, I was like, nope.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It was pretty steep, that 30-meter incline.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then every time you go up, and I think they were calling it like a false plateau. Right. I was like, okay, good, a little bit of flat, and then you go up and you see it's just short, and then more mountainous.
Right.
Just like, how did people do this with gear and under combat conditions? It's it really does put things in perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. So endurance, family, fun, resiliency, and I would say the last thing would be. For me as a legacy is just laying claim to being the smallest paratrooper in the free world.
Absolutely, you are legit the smallest paratrooper. It's recorded in the schoolhouse, right?
You know what? I need to check that. I hope that it is. So yeah, I often challenge everyone. That's airborne. And I don't think I have had anyone come back to say that they've met a smaller paratrooper than me.
Did you have to do a special exemption or anything to go to airborne school?
Yeah. No, you just got to meet the qualifications and
nice.
And
that's
then,
awesome.
And then make your jumps. And then so my first thought, coming into the Army as being jump qualified. At the time, I didn't know that they weren't sending females to Italy because that was restricted to males only. So I ended up going to Germany and being a chemical platoon leader. But,
absolutely.
But it's been a lot of fun. Probably a little bit more adventurous than your average AG soldier.
I would say it sounds like when we think of like the modern conflicts, you've been a part of most of the modern conflicts going on from 1990. So that's pretty cool to say that you were a part of history like that. Talking about your experience as the smallest paratrooper and being a Hispanic American woman, what were some of the challenges that you dealt with? Was everyone supportive at airborne school, or were there detractors?
No, I would say that everybody was supportive. I think just making that first jump, the jump masters probably could see it in everybody's eyes, just that fear, like, holy moly, am I really doing this?
Yeah.
And, but, all suited up. I probably went to airborne school, probably a very light. So, when they had to put all the equipment on, and tighten everything up, it was just like, how am I going to walk onto the, onto the airplane? But it was funny, just one of the jump masters just came, picked me up, and just, dropped me on the table because we were all waiting.
Yeah.
But no, they were all very supportive. We all got sent to the gig pit, and sucked in, that sawdust just like everybody else. And so there was no special treatment, Yep. It was just as challenging for me as it was for anybody else.
I think having that common goal, you all show up, you get there, and you want to be airborne qualified. It does help you look past. So if anyone did come in with prejudice or any ideas about other people, that all sort of melts away really fast when you realize you all need each other to achieve the goal.
Correct. Yeah, I think even my parents were supportive of it. I think just. My father was probably concerned for my safety, and I'm not sure why. As a lieutenant, I called home and asked if I could go to airborne school. Of course, my father said no, and I just said, okay, well, I need to go to airborne school for me, because if I don't complete that, then that just helped me to build confidence, courage, and knowing that that's something that I could accomplish, and if I can accomplish that, then anybody else can. So
that's excellent. You were still trying to be a good daughter,
right,
wanting to get your father's permission.
Exactly.
Hey,
right.
Dad, I got these orders. Do you mind if I, follow the Army's order to go to airborne school?
Yeah. Well, and I can see how he thought it was dangerous, because
jumping on a perfectly good airplane is
exactly. Yeah, and because I was a female and the smallest one, I was the first one out the door on two jumps, and so you're just like, oh my goodness, yeah,
just boom, out you go.
That's right. Yep, and you're just screaming, probably with everybody else, but on the first one out the door and the last one hit the drop zone. So, but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, as far as jump school, the jump masters, everybody was supportive. There may have been a touch of it, along my military career, but I think once the individual saw, my capabilities and my confidence and, willingness to get the job done right, a lot of that, if there were challenges or, any, possibility of like discriminatory behavior or, counterproductive leadership or something like that, it was just dissolved. So
whatever stereotypes anyone might have had about you going into it, you just, through sheer competence and character, brought them to your side.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, that's the exact. I think when we think about how we overcome, differences with each other, that is, that's the key. Is everyone has these stereotypes. They go into depending on where you grow up,
Sure.
and once we meet each other, interact with each other. I was thinking about this. When people do form maladaptive stereotypes, this is their idea of how a people that they've never met are like, or how a group of
Correct.
people or whatever. But then once you get in there, there's no stereotypes for Lieutenant Colonel Nieto or Yolanda Nieto, and then they see they see you and who you are, and absolutely that's a great way to build camaraderie and just really get past a lot of those barriers.
And I think that holds true for all the Hispanic soldiers within the U.S. Army, or not even in the U.S. Army, but DoD, across the board. We're here to work hard, do our job and meet mission, and hopefully have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's really been the key, is to be able to enjoy the work that we do.
Yeah, and I think, and your family is like a perfect example. When we look at the members of DoD with Hispanic heritage, they probably have quite a bit of service in their family. Whether it's the Revolutionary War, Civil War, Mexican American War, there's a lot of service, and that they're probably like you were saying, you didn't necessarily feel pressure to uphold that. You wanted to go and have an adventure, but they're serving, and their ancestors have served, like their fathers and uncles and cousins in it, and so there's a lot of service. I think that's a very important part of our military culture. Once again, considering your family's legacy of serving, I understand your son is getting ready to join the Marine Corps.
Yes. So right now he's training to take the Marine Corps version of the, I think they call it a PFT, and which is our ACFT. And so he's already passed the flight physical, the flight exam.
Oh, wow.
And
so he's looking to become a pilot.
Exactly. That's his dream right now, is to become a pilot.
And so from the time, talking about, legacies of service in Hispanic families, it sounds like he's keeping up the tradition. How do you feel? How do you feel about him joining the military? So from the time you joined in 1985 to the changes that you've seen, how do you feel about him joining the military? And what advice would you give him?
Do it. Just learn everything that you can. From your enlisted and warrant officers and senior officers. Take every opportunity, even though it may seem like a challenge. Just do it. Go out there, try it out, and see where it takes you.
Yeah, and if he has a hard time, he can always play the "My Mom's Lieutenant Colonel" card.
No.
No help from Mom.
Yeah, because it's the Marine Corps and I'm Army, so I probably would mess it up for him. So
call his first sergeant.
right.
Let him know to take it easier on him.
Yeah, no. So he already has a cousin that is in the Marine Corps.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and there could be a chance that he gets to Quantico when he's still there, so he'll have enough to deal with.
Wow. Okay. Awesome.
Versus trying to use my mom's Lieutenant Colonel card. No.
Well, it's always something good to keep in the back pocket.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so as you're preparing for retirement and getting ready for the next phase of your life, when we think about young Hispanic female soldiers who are thinking of joining the Army or who are in the Army now and just starting their careers, what advice would you give them?
I would say stick it out, because you don't know what's on the other side. Go, and second of all, come into the Army, check it out, because if you don't like it, you can always go into the reserves, because there are many opportunities and challenges that will help you to grow as an individual, and you will grow and know more about who you are through the experiences and the challenges and the opportunities that you'll have, in any of the services. So doesn't just have to be the Army. It could be the Marine Corps, Air Force, etc. Just make that decision, do it, and follow your dream for as long as that works for you, and of course develop a plan, and come back to that plan, if it's every 30 days, every 6 months, a year, come back and revisit that, and but go for it.
Take the ride and have a plan.
Exactly.
So we have a tradition on the Every Soldier Counts podcast where we ask our guests, what is your favorite part about being stationed in Area 4 in Korea?
So the history, the people, and the food.
I can tell you the food comes up a lot, and I agree with the food, and the history is remarkable. It's remarkable to be able to spend that time around here. Well, ma'am, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Not only can you hear this podcast on your favorite venue to listen to podcasts, but you can also see my pretty face on the 19th ESC YouTube page. Just Google 19th ESC Every Soldier Counts. I'm Captain Mukherjee, and this has been the Every Soldier Counts podcast. Catch you next time.